Welcome back. Super excited. Moving forward, I'm going to talk about what the GDPR General Data Protection Regulation is and how it works in Office 365 Enterprise Edition. This is the complete readiness toolkit using Office 365, which allows us to comply fully with the GDPR. So just a brief timeline. This is a short lecture, about 6 slides, right? So I'm just going to walk through some of the basic understanding of what this is and how does it affect us, and we'll move forward from there. So the timeline states that in 2012, the European Commission publishes the proposal, and then separate negotiations with the Council and the European Parliament takes place. The agreement is reached in 2014. In 2015, further negotiations and approval among 3 institutions take place. The regulation published in the official journal in 2016, and it took about 2 years for the implementation phase, and finally the regulations applies and it starts in effect from 25th May 2018. So that kind of gives you an idea of where it started, and it's now in effect. The Office 365 Enterprise Edition Compliance Center, I call it Toolkit, right? So once you're in the Compliance Center, I call it Toolkit because the entire course revolves around not only just the rules, regulations, the laws, the articles, but also how it actually works within Office 365. How can we take the readiness assessment and how we can actually use and apply within our organization by assigning various users and comply with all the GDPR rules and regulations. And Office 365 does this for us. So we'll take a look at how that actually works. This is a hands-on course, so I'm going to demonstrate within Office 365. So the Data Protection Officer, it's mandatory, and in certain instances is not mandatory. So for organizations, you now need a DPO. And if your company or your organization is a hospital processing large sets of sensitive data, you need a DPO, and that's mandatory as per law. If you're a security company responsible for monitoring shopping centers and public spaces, you would also need a DPO. If you're a small headhunting company that profiles individuals, you would still require a data protection officer. However, DPO is not mandatory if you are a local community doctor providing services and you process personal data of your patients. You don't require to hire a DPO just to protect your data. Or if you have a small law firm and you process personal data of your clients, you still would not require a data protection officer. And the relevant law is Article 29, Working Party Guidelines on the Data Protection Officers, and then Article 37 to Article 39, along with the recital number 97 of the GDPR. If you want to go ahead and reference those, you can do so. So the key changes under GDPR, just briefly: personal privacy. Individuals have the right to access their personal data, correct errors in their personal data, erase, object to processing of their personal data, and exporting personal data. The controls and notifications: organizations will need to protect the personal data using appropriate security, and that could be SSL, that could be the cloud, or whatever measures they want to take. They have to demonstrate those measures. Notify authorities of personal data breaches, obtain appropriate consents for processing data, and keep records detailing those data. Transparent policies: organizations are required to provide clear notice of data collection, outline processing purposes and use cases, and then define data retention and deletion policies. So notice within Office 365, if you're currently using, your organization is fairly, most likely in all cases, is using Office 365. It all comes built in. For example, you can set up the DLP, the data prevention policies, right? Or the DLP, data loss prevention policies. You can set those up within the environment. So IT and training: organizations will need to now train privacy personnel and employees, audit and update data policies, employ a data protection officer, and create and manage compliant vendor contracts. So in this instance, you're also required to now train your employees as well and audit and update data policies. So you need to send reports to external auditors, maybe, if your company is hiring external auditors. And Office 365 Enterprise Edition Compliance Center gives you all of these, okay? So it complies to the personal privacy, controls and notifications, transparent policies, IT, and training. So it kind of gives you the entire, everything under one umbrella. Just in the brief lecture, I just wanted to highlight what GDPR and the concept of Office 365 Compliance Center. And then once we move forward, I'm going to demonstrate hands-on how to actually go ahead and create these assessments within your organization and then comply with the rules, regulations, and law of GDPR. So with this, let's get started and let's move to our next lesson.